You are listening and watching to a very special podcast. Alright, guys, today I'm going to talk about the perspective views on the characters. I'm going to do it each. So today I'm going to do it on Briar Devlin. Alright, here we are. Let's do this. Briar Devlin. Briar Devlin was 20 years old, almost 21. She lives with her divorced mother. They live in a happy life away from Briar's father. Her father was a very abusive man, physically and emotionally. Through her childhood, Briar had been through so much, and also, as a result, she suffered so many scars, but she managed to heal over time. The same with her mother, who had been through a horribly domestically violent marriage in her life. When the two of them move away from Chicago, Illinois, all the way to Florida, they started a new life. But Briar's father, Orion, was about to crush it all, if not for Briar's mother, Ella, to intervene, and Orion was sent to the mental hospital. Briar hadn't received contact from him. However, she wasn't sure if he was going to change or not. In her high school year, Briar was with her 12 best friends. She was really excited about senior year. It was the last year of her days in high school of Florida. She was going to spend at a grad bash where she and her 12 graduated best friends are going to see the newest action film. Briar was really excited to spend with her friends one more time before departing off for graduation. They decided to make the most of it. So they went to this new action film, and Briar and the others loved watching it. They just got to the climax when all of a sudden someone came in with a gun in his hand. Briar had a bad feeling, but she thought maybe it was part of the movie. However, she thought wrong. The gunman pulled out his weapon and began to open fire. There was screaming and bodies falling to the floor. Briar was watching this in horror. She was unharmed, but she managed to duck low and called out for her friends. She saw a few of them were injured while the others were dead, much to her horror. One of her friends, Jeremy, cried out, "Get out of here, Briar! Save yourself!" But it was too late. Him and his girlfriend were both shot. Briar let out a hysterical screech of pain. The shooter pointed his gun at Briar, ready to do the same. Luckily, there were police sirens, and the gunslinger man just left. He was finally caught by the police and taken into custody, but after a week later, he once again escaped from execution. Briar was in a catatonic state for a few days. Her mother Ella was so worried, but she managed to do her best to help her daughter. Briar couldn't even bear to go out into the world and was so traumatized. She never felt so alone, and she never felt so upset to be graduating alone without her friends. Her friends had dreams, hopes. and now they were crushed and in ashes, dust. Briar blamed herself for not saving them. She felt so guilty. She could not bear to save them. She did her best, however, to try and comfort herself, trying to reassure herself that it wasn't her fault. No matter how many times she tried to convince herself, all she could do was think about that day, and she would cry, and she would blame herself even more. But that soon was about to change when Briar Devlin suddenly was going for her job interview to try and clear her head. But while inside the elevator, she noticed that one of the buttons had a symbol of a white rabbit on one of them. Briar was pretty curious. She had never seen a button like that before, so she pressed it. All of a sudden, the elevator made her go straight down. Thing side to side she went, and she feared that she might crash and die. Briar screamed for her life. She woke up. Briar looked around and saw herself in a different world. Where am I? She wondered. She managed to get up and decided to walk around. She looked around to see blue skies and white puffy clouds. There was green grass and trees. None of them had a speck of anything without leaves. All of them had greens in them. There were many of them, and there were many tall buildings. People were walking about, bustling their own business. But something had caught Briar's eye. She almost could see something in the distance. It looked like some sort of glass building, kind of like the buildings that she's seen, but this one was different from the other buildings. The buildings were normal. Some were tall and some were short. Some were medium-sized and some had apartments. But this one was different. And it had some sort of inscription and also something big and engraved on it known as Evermore. Briar was curious. What kind of building is that? She wondered. But she didn't see where she was going, for she just slammed into something big and tall. That wasn't a building. Oh, hey, she started to say, but then she stopped. She could see that it was a young man with brightly orange hair, and he was wearing white and black. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you. Wow, you're pretty tall. I guess I didn't pay attention to where I was going, she said. The young man noticed. Who are you? He asked. Why, I'm Briar Devlin. Who are you? Asked Briar. Ichigo Kurosaki. Briar smiled. All of a sudden she could hear him, not his voice, but in his head. Oh, do tell, Ichigo, she said. Are you what they call a soul reaper? She asked. Ichigo looked at her with shock. How did you know? He asked. Briar smiled. I don't know. For some reason, I guess I can read your mind, she said. Ichigo looked at her. Well, I guess maybe we should look around and find out where we are, said Ichigo. Briar brightened up. Us? Together? She asked. Then she said, I would really like to get to know you, Ichigo Kurosaki. I really do. Ichigo looked at her and smiled. Yeah, I think I would like to get to know you better, Briar, said Ichigo, and the two of them walked off together. But suddenly Briar noticed someone was lying on the grass, someone with silver hair and in white samurai clothing. It was quite unusual. Briar bent down. Hey, buddy, are you okay? She asked. Young man looked up. This young man was known as Gintoki Sakata. Later, Briar, Gintoki, and Ichigo could hear commotion going on, so they went to see what it was about. There was a man made of rubber. There was a pink-haired guy with a blue cat, and also there was a guy in some sort of school clothing, and he had dark hair, but there was also some sort of rebelliousness, and he had pointy ears. And also, there was an amount of strangeness with this kind of crowd. Hey! Briar called out. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked. What the heck are you guys doing? Briar asked. Who are you? The boy with pointy ears asked. I'm Briar Devlin. This is Ichigo Kurosaki, and this is Gintoki Sakata, said Briar. The guy with the pink hair. He was known as Natsu Dragneel, and his blue cat was known as Happy. The rubber man was Monkey D. Luffy, and the other one was known as Rin Akamura. Natsu looked at everyone, and then he blurted out, Man, what a bunch of freaks! The others turned on him. Who are you calling a freak? They all said, and they all started a fight. Well, not Briar, who just sat there and watched them. She shook her head, then all of a sudden she outstretched her hand and called out, Stop! All of a sudden, the rest of them found themselves floating in mid-air. They couldn't believe it. Then Briar, overcoming her own terror, decided to let them go, and they fell to the ground safely. Then Briar sighed, smiled down at them, and said, So, who's the freak? The others looked up at Briar in amazement. Whoa, they all said. Happy said. Later, the rest of them were standing up tall like soldiers while Briar was pacing towards them like a drill sergeant or a commander. All right, listen up. There appears to be an amount of strangeness going on here, and I want to find out what that is. So, I don't want to hear any fighting amongst yourselves. We got to work together as a team, okay? No fighting, no bickering, no debating, nothing. I want this to be a clean and peaceful way to do it. We got some pretty extraordinary powers, and if we work together, we can find out the truth behind everything. Any questions? Briar said. Natsu raised his hand. Ma'am, I have one. Natsu called out. Yes, Private Dragneel, Briar said. Then Natsu said in a normal tone of voice. Exactly where do we start? He asked. That's a very good question, Briar said. She pointed over to the glass building. You see that glass building over there from afar? The others looked. Yeah? Ichigo asked. Well, I want to find out what's in there. So, what are we waiting for? She said. So the others decided to put their differences aside and work together as a team, and off they went. Beginning of a new journey. Okay, guys, this is the end of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I'm Catherine Donovan, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.